Hello, everyone. If you could just give us 1 minute to get everything started. Welcome, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Cooking Connected. Thank you so much for joining us. We're just getting our cameras together here. So if this is your first time with us, welcome. We're excited you're all here today. My name is Jordan. Joining me today is my coworker Sajwa and one of our lovely volunteers, Julia. So both Sajwa and I work for the University of Minnesota Extension program with the Cooking Matters program. And as I said, Julia is one of our volunteers. So normally a Cooking Matters class is a nutrition-based 6-week cooking class that features a chef and a nutrition educator that work together to teach our participants a little bit about nutrition and also how to make a healthy, delicious, affordable meal. So today we're going to follow that same format. Sajwa is going to be our chef and Julia will be our nutrition educator. And today we will be making sweet potato shepherd's pie. So it sounds like a great recipe. So this week, as always, we do have another survey for you guys to take. We do ask that you take this survey. We have it in the description and we also have it posted in the live chat. This just helps us make our videos a little better every time, and it also helps us to continue our work in the community. So please take our survey. For this, you will need a program code, which I have right here. This week's program code is E097582. And again, that is posted in the description as well as in the live chat. So if you have any questions, feel free to chat them in. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Sajwa and Julia. Take it away, ladies.
All righty. Thank you so much for that introduction, Jordan. And then let us there we go. All right. So like Jordan said, we are going to be doing the sweet potato shepherd's pie. I think this is a great recipe, especially right now as we enter into the fall season and we're looking for a bit more comfort food. It's not only comforting, it's also healthy. And I love that we're using sweet potatoes right now. So let's go ahead and get started. First and foremost, before we do anything, we need to make sure that we have a clean and sanitized space. Clean meaning that we've removed any visible debris or anything that might be on there. And then sanitized meaning that we've disinfected with any kind of disinfectant, household disinfectant that you have. So my space has been prepped like that already. I've also gone ahead and washed my hands. You do want to wash your hands for 20 seconds, getting in between your fingers like so, going around your wrist, and getting underneath those fingernails too. So take your time and do that. You can sing the happy birthday song twice, or you can sing your ABCs to help you get through the 20 seconds as you wash your hands. And then finally, we always like to mention mise en place. So I've got my mise en place done already. As you can see, I've put out all the things that I'll be using today. Everything's out, even a couple things are pre-measured for me so that as I'm going through this recipe, I can just keep moving through it. And I don't have to worry about reaching in and out of my cabinets. And this is especially good if this is the first time you're doing a recipe like this. It can be helpful to just kind of have things out so you can stay on track with what you're doing. Let's get started. I have already preheated my oven to 450. So don't forget to preheat your oven to 450. And I would like to mention that with this recipe, we are going to be using sweet potatoes. So for this process, we're going to go ahead and bake our sweet potatoes ahead of time. They're going to need to bake for about 45 minutes to an hour. So make sure that you take some time out before you start actually prepping the rest of your ingredients and bake those sweet potatoes at 450 for about 45 minutes to an hour or until they're soft enough to push a fork through. And then you're going to want to set those out so that they can cool. So I've already baked my sweet potatoes. They're set over here on the side. We're going to get to those a little bit later. But let's get started with our filling, actually. So make sure my camera angle is looking good for you guys. That's good. All right. So the first thing we want to do is make sure our vegetables are rinsed. I've wiped the cans off as well. I'm going to start out with my mushrooms. You need 8 ounces of mushrooms for this recipe, and that is about one of these full containers of mushrooms. Normally on these mushrooms, you will see a label on there and it might say like, oh, it's been pre-washed or something of that sort. I still go ahead and give them another rinse. There's no harm in that, just an extra step to take. And let's get started with these guys. I love adding mushrooms to different recipes that I'm doing. I do want to do a reminder of our knife safety skills. So I am pinching the blade with my index and my thumb there. And then I wrap my fingers around the handle here like so. And that's just going to give me a lot of good control as I'm working my knife today. And, you know, make it easier for anyone who might be starting out new with knives. So with my mushrooms, I sometimes like to stack them up into a little pile. I'm using my claw with my other hand to kind of hold down the mushrooms, and tucking my fingers in there too. So let's go ahead and cut these guys up. When it comes to something like mushrooms, I know they're not everybody's favorite ingredient. So for this, something like this, I do recommend cutting it to a size that's going to be comfortable for you and your family. If you do have young children, it might be a nice idea to practice a mince. We have done this technique before in Cooking Connected. And with that, you would just be cutting it up first, and then you're going to be, again, pinching our blade, wrapping our finger around our handle, and just rocking the knife like so, while putting a little bit of leverage here at the top and rocking that to get that mince going, kind of something like that. But I really enjoy a nice, full mushroom, so.
These are something you can kind of easily hide in food.
Yes, I've heard success stories from a lot of parents who have minced their mushrooms and snuck them into different pastas, sauces, things like that. And it's really helpful for picky eaters or, you know, young ones who might be a little nervous about having a new vegetable such as this.
It can have a little bit of a weird texture if you're not used to it.
That's true. So I did mince the rest of my mushrooms already because we do have a lot to get through today. So I just wanted to kind of give you a quick demonstration of that. So as you can see, this is what the full container would look like when you're done. So I just gonna set that to the side. We will be using that. And next we're gonna work with our onion. This has already been rinsed and I went ahead and peeled off the skin. I want to create a flat surface because it's going to be hard to work with this onion as it's rolling around like this. So let's just cut this guy in half. And by doing so, I'm creating a flat surface and now it's a lot more stable. It's not rolling around there like it was before. I'm going to go ahead and cut off the top of my onion. And I want to save this for my vegetable broth. We talk about that in almost every video. So I'm going to tuck that to the side. And then I'm practicing my claw. And I just want to cut following the natural lines, the natural grooves of the onion here. I am not going all the way back to our fuzzy part back there, but just far enough where, you know, it's still making a cut through, but the onion won't be completely separated. That fuzzy part back there is going to work to hold it all together for us as we go through the next step of our dice. So I've done that. So you can see what that looks like.
Beautiful onion fan.
Then I've got my claw again, and I'm just going to go straight down. And the thickness, again, is up to you and what's comfortable for you and your family to eat. You could go thicker, you could go thinner. I know Jordan has also mentioned that you could put your hand on top and actually come through here on the side to get another layer if you want smaller dices. But I want a nice, thick, chunky dice today. So I'm just going to go straight through. And what you'll find is the onion will naturally separate into these perfect diced pieces. Okay. And then with this part, I am going to just go ahead and dice that up. We will save it though, because it can be used in our broth bag. Something like this, that's good for a broth bag. Let me put that to the side. Okay, so that's my onion. And by using that method, I mean, look at how nicely it just dices itself pretty much. It's a really great technique. So we are going to want to set that to the side. Put that in this little bucket here. And then the next thing we're going to do is we are going to cut our garlic. But before I cut my garlic, I do want to just quickly note, this recipe calls for 1 small onion. I had a really large onion before I cut it, and I should have mentioned this to you guys earlier. So because I had such a large onion, I just used half of it, and I'll save this half for another recipe at another time. If I was on my own time, I would go ahead and dice this and then put it away already diced. So then in the morning, I'll have it easy and ready to go for my omelets. But we're on your time, so I can save that step for another day. So let me put those to the side. And let's go ahead and work with our garlic today. So garlic can be a little tricky to peel sometimes. So we do have a trick that does very much help. You're gonna wanna take your knife with the blade facing away from you, and you're gonna put it down and just take the palm of your hand right there, that part, and you're gonna push down on the blade like so. Let me show you what that looks like. You can hear that nice crunch, that nice crack. And then that makes peeling the garlic so much easier. Now, not all garlic is the same. So I've had a couple squirmy guys that wanted to get away from me. So watch out for any slipperies that want to run away. But that is a great technique for peeling garlic and, you know, crushing it and releasing all those yummy flavors in there. And then these scraps we can save for our broth bag. That's what I'm taking back there. Yeah, like this buddy doesn't really want to crack. It's okay. Another thing I do want to bring up really quickly while I'm peeling this last piece of garlic is that if you're using frozen peas, it would be a good idea to take those out so they can thaw a little bit. About now would be a good time to do that. So just keep that in mind if you are going to be using any frozen vegetables, that they should probably be out to thaw by now. So I'm just cutting off that tip of the garlic, and I'm going to put that to the side. And I'm going to do a nice little slice here. And I'm going to do that with all of my pieces of garlic here. And then after I get these slices, I am going to work on that mincing technique that I mentioned to you guys earlier when we were working on the mushrooms. So let me just scrape all of my garlic into a pile like so. I'm going to be holding my knife like this, and then I'm going to be rocking it and then regathering my food as I go and rocking it. So let's see what that looks like. And you can take your time with this. It's not a race. This is something that you can definitely go slow with. So that's just one technique to do the mince. This one, and keep going. The smaller you cut up your garlic, the more flavor is actually going to be released from the garlic. So keep that in mind. And now the other way that you can do a mince, I just want to show you all, is by gathering your garlic into a nice tidy pile like so. We're going to pinch the top of our knife, still holding that blade with the other hand. And I'm just going up and down. That might be a good skill to practice for some who are maybe a little newer to the mince. I do, however, like going the other way because it is a bit quicker for me and I'm more familiar with that one. But you can do either way and just keep on working through, and you will get a nice minced garlic. So I am going to put this in here with my thyme seasoning because we're going to be adding those at the same time. So I'm going to just set that in there. We'll be adding that later around the same time. Put my closed garlic away, using the back of my knife to scrape so that I'm not dulling my blade there. All right. So that takes care of that. Put that there. And now that we've prepped those items, the next thing we're going to be doing is actually working with our skillet. I'm going to move my camera slightly over so you guys can have a better view of that. And we're going to be working with browning our meat and cooking all of those items all together. So let me just bring my camera over here for you all. Hopefully you can see that. Now, during my mise en place, I did take my meat, and instead of leaving it out in the like out on the countertop. I did put it in the refrigerator to keep it nice and cool because I don't want that to get to any danger zones. We're practicing food safety with that. So keep that in mind. And let me just show you. With this recipe, it's versatile. You could do beef. You could also use a turkey. If you are going to be using beef, we do want to recommend that you use a leaner cut of beef, so something with a higher percent lean and a lower percent fat. So like a 93 lean, 7% fat, something like that would be a good option, just so that we're not having too fatty of a meat in there. So let me put mine in this. Oh, it's a little stuck. In there. I'm going to turn my heat on. And now you guys let me know if once things get crackling over here, if it's a little too loud, I can mute if I need to. So just let me know if that's the case. But as I'm browning my meat, I'm also going to be adding those mushrooms that we diced up and that onion. So just keep that in mind. Have those ready to go. And yeah, we're going to just take our time and brown this up. It should take about 15 minutes to brown.
While that's happening, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the sweet potatoes that we're using for the topping for this. Sweet potatoes are something that not everybody has a lot of experience with, but I think it's a really great thing to add into your diet. There's a lot of benefits to sweet potatoes. They've got a lot of vitamin A and vitamin C in them, lots of other vitamins, potassium, magnesium, everything like that, that some of us are lacking. So in 1 cup of sweet potato, there's actually 400% of the recommended amount of vitamin A. So if you ever think that you're lacking in that at all, just have some sweet potato and you'll be set on that. Vitamin C, there's about half of the daily recommended amount. So vitamin A and vitamin C are both really important for our immune function. If you've ever seen like that airborne kind of thing that is a supplement that you take so you don't get sick, that's mostly just vitamin C. So getting it from food sources is always preferred over supplements if you can. Vitamin A is also really good for your eyesight. I know a lot of people hear that with carrots, that if you eat carrots, you're going to have good vision. So it's the same kind of thing. It's the vitamin A in carrots and in sweet potatoes that are good for that. And it's also really important for organ function to make sure that all your insides are doing what they're supposed to be doing. And the same is true for potassium. So looked like Sadra was going to say something, but I think she's just waiting for her meat to brown. So another thing that I really love about sweet potatoes is they're full of antioxidants, which a lot of people talk about as being preventing cancer. So what antioxidants do is, you can kind of tell from the name, it's antioxidant. So all those oxidants that are naturally in our bodies can do some damage to us. So anything with antioxidants kind of sweeps all that bad stuff out, and clears the way for us being healthier. There's also a lot of anti-inflammatory properties in sweet potatoes. Just generally overall, they're a really good vegetable, I think. Another thing that's really good about sweet potatoes is they can be really good for people with diabetes. They have that sweet taste, but they don't spike your blood sugar, which is something that we all need to be cognizant of, but especially people with diabetes or other issues, other health issues. So there is a lot of starch in sweet potatoes, and that can put some people off for sure. But there is also a really good amount of fiber, especially if you leave the skins off. And that can be something that not everybody likes. I do prefer it with the skins on. Just make sure to scrub them really well and go about your recipe with the skins. But again, not everybody likes that. So if you're not a fan, you can take that off. You'll still get a lot of the good benefits. But the fiber in sweet potatoes, even not in the skin, kind of works against all that starch. So it makes it so that the starch is released slowly in your body and not all at once. Because if it is released all at once, that can cause a blood sugar spike with your body trying to kind of counteract having all of that starch all at one time. So with the fiber helps slow it down so it doesn't cause a blood sugar spike and keeps it really pretty steady. And so that's another great thing about sweet potatoes.
So, Julia, we do have a question from the viewer. Someone asked, is it true that someone lived off of potatoes for a whole year?
That is true. That's regular potatoes, not sweet potatoes. I don't feel like it would be exactly the same. Regular potatoes have more protein in them and a better distribution of some kinds of nutrients. But yes, people have eaten only potatoes for up to a year. I would get really bored. I know if you guys have ever heard of Penn and Teller, the magicians, Penn Jillette use that as a diet thing to only eat potatoes. He lost a lot of weight. Any other questions on that?
It's really awesome to have you working with us. I gotta say, I mean, you're just so knowledgeable. We really appreciate that. I'm learning so much.
I'm on my way to becoming a dietetic technician.
Ooh,
One step under a registered dietitian.
there you go. Yes, and I do understand that you had a recent graduation. So
I did.
yeah,
Well, I finished up over the summer.
Go ahead and comment and wish Miss Julia a happy congratulations. Congratulations. That's my favorite one to say, actually. Wish her congratulations for graduating. Oh, that's such a wonderful accomplishment.
Yeah, I'm excited about it.
So guys, I'm browning my meat here. It's just about finishing up, and I'm seeing a few little spots that are still a little pink, so I'm gonna let that finish cooking here. But I am gonna be adding my onions and my mushrooms at this point. Those mushrooms that we went ahead and diced together. Add all of that in there. Then I've got my onions. Okay. Awesome.
Julia, we have some congratulations for you on this end. Got a couple viewers congratulating you. So
Awesome.
Congratulations.
We love the support that you guys give us and that you're giving our volunteers. You know, Cooking Matters wouldn't be possible without our lovely volunteers. So thank you, Miss Julia. We really appreciate you.
I love being here.
So I've got my onions in here and the mushrooms are cooking away. I'm just going to give them a little bit more time. This is pretty time intensive. This recipe is, you know, with some sweet potatoes needing to be cooked in advance, all of that. So just keep that in mind to set a little bit of time aside for that.
Julia, we do have a question. Is there anything that you can prep ahead of time for this recipe to maybe make it quicker on one end, or?
Yeah, of course. Thank you. That's a great question. So I don't know if you guys heard what I mentioned earlier, but whenever I'm using an onion on my own time, I will go ahead and continue with those dices. If I need to use a whole onion, I will dice the whole thing, just so that when I need to use it later, it's already prepared. So that's one thing you could do. Same thing with the mushrooms. So I do like to include those ingredients in an omelet. You could prep them in advance, and then if you were going to be doing this recipe later, include them in. Furthermore, you could prep the sweet potatoes earlier. They're very versatile, you guys, and I feel like they get definitely overlooked. So if you were using another recipe in which you would be needing sweet potatoes, or you were just interested in having a sweet potato mash, they're so yummy, You could go ahead and bake a couple of sweet potatoes in advance and then use some of it for the topping of this recipe. So just keep that in mind. And then there are lots of little ways where we've taken, I don't want to call them shortcuts, but, quicker measures, like using frozen peas. There's hardly any prep with that. I just took them out to thaw just as I was starting to cook this recipe. So those are all options that you can use with this one. So my onions are starting to look a little translucent here, I'm gonna go ahead and go on to the next step. So we want to add our garlic and thyme at this point. So remember, we put those together in that container because we're putting them in at the same time. Let me reduce my heat a little bit and add that in. I do want to mention very quickly that at this point, you can go ahead and drain the liquid from your meat too. You should do that actually probably before adding your garlic and thyme if that's a step you'd like to take. If you're using a really fatty beef, so for example, if you weren't able to get like a 93, 7% cut, or, you know, if you were using something more fatty, you're definitely going to want to drain out that extra liquid, that extra oil that comes out from there, because it'll help this recipe become a little bit more lean. But if you're using a ground turkey or something very lean, you're hardly going to have anything in there. So it would be okay to just, you know, move forward from that step. So just keep that in mind. We do recommend always using a leaner option. You can't even tell the difference. I've oftentimes tricked family members into eating my turkey chili and they think it's beef. They can't even tell. So that's just a little trick I keep up my sleeve. So I've added that garlic and that thyme in there. The next thing we want to do is sprinkle flour, and we're going to stir and coat our meat with that. So this is a 1/4 cup of flour. I've gone on and measured that out for myself ahead of time. That's another thing, our mise en place, that will help us with our time management. So we're going to sprinkle that on. And this is going to coat our meat and vegetable filling. And let me go ahead and add that in.
And that's just regular all-purpose flour, Sajwa?
Yes, thank you. Yes, it is. So I've got that, and that's thickened this up a little bit for us. And then next, make sure I coat that really nice and well. Next, we're gonna be adding our broth, in our Worcestershire sauce. I always say it the wrong way because my husband got in my ear, funny story, and pronounces it wrong all the time and kind of ruined the word for me, you know? So I can never get it right, so it seems. But let's go ahead with our broth and our sauce. Hey, as a part of our mise en place, I've gone on and wiped the top of my can already, making sure that's clean.
Ladies, we do have another question. What kinds of fat are coming from the meat? I've heard mono and polyunsaturated fats are good for you. Does it have a lot of saturated fat?
Something like a beef will have some more saturated fat. So I know the saturated comes from animal products and unsaturated from plant products. So you're not going to be getting much of the unsaturated because, again, the meat is definitely animal product. So just keep that in mind. It's a lot of saturated fat that we're going to be draining out with that step that you guys are asking about. So fats from unsaturated fats, which would be like a vegetable oil, for example, what I have here, they are going to be liquid at room temperature versus a saturated fat, which will be solid at room temperature. And so keep that in mind when you're looking at your different fats. So butters, margarines, things like that are solid. I'm not going to say avoid, but let's just limit them and try to encourage more of those liquid oils that are coming from plants. They are good for you. And as I was talking about that, I did go ahead and add my broth, but I do want to mention really quickly, make sure you guys can actually see that. Today, I'm using a reduced sodium, fat-free broth option. So, you know, I'm watching my sodium, all of the ways that I can cut that, I do. And this gives you a bit more control over how much salt is actually in your recipe. So just keep that in mind when you are doing any recipe with maybe a broth. Or you could add your DIY broth. So keep that in mind, you guys.
Yeah, I actually wanted to talk about that too a little bit if you have a second break, Sajwa.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
So about the sodium, everybody hears that sodium is really bad for us. And so I just kind of wanted to talk about why we hear that all the time. And one of the big things, like the main reason pretty much that sodium is not good in excess, is that it causes your body to hold on to extra fluid that, you just don't need. So if you ever feel really bloated, or like maybe sometimes your feet or legs swell up when you have a lot of salt, that's because it's making your body hold on to more fluid. And one thing that can be really pretty dangerous about that is, with the excess fluid in your body, it actually increases the amount of blood that you have, because it's just adding more fluid to your blood. And that makes it so that your heart has to work harder to pump that amount of blood through your whole body. So that's why it can, raise blood pressure. And if that happens consistently over a lifetime, you can end up having high blood pressure all the time, which is hypertension. And it can also damage your blood vessels too if it's ongoing. So that's something that we just want to watch for. And most sodium in our diets is found in processed foods. So it's not really about the food that you make at home, from fresh whole foods. It's more the kind of things like canned products, or if you eat out, things like that. Fast food is notorious for having really high sodium.
Okay, so I've added my sauce and we're just gonna wait for that to thicken. It should take 2 to 3 minutes. And then just now I added a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. So like Julia said, I am measuring my salt. We're not saying none of it, but just being mindful of how much you're having instead of just pouring it in or sprinkling it on. I'm being very careful about that and very vigilant. And then the next thing I need to add along with my salt is a 1/8 teaspoon of the pepper. So I'm going to add that really quickly while my mixture is thickening. So I just added that. And as this mixture is thickening, you should go ahead and add in your peas. If you're doing frozen peas, you could add it now before it gets completely thick, because that will help it kind of cook the peas a little bit more since they're frozen. If you were able to let your peas thaw out, you could wait for this to thicken. And if you're using fresh peas, definitely wait for this to thicken, because it is going to have some bake time in the oven too, you guys. So just keep that in mind. So yeah, with this recipe, you could incorporate a variety of methods of, vegetables in here. You don't have to just do peas. You could do, I think carrots would go really nice in here. All of those things could work. I could even see like corn, if you're getting adventurous, maybe a little bell pepper, you could really put anything in with your mixture, but we're gonna do the peas today. And we're just gonna wait a moment for that to thicken.
So I do also, I was going to talk about nutrition labels a little bit. Again, while Sajwa has a little bit of a break here, because we were talking about the amount of sodium in things, and I mentioned some vitamins earlier, but how do you know what you're eating with that? And a really good thing is to look for, if it says low sodium on the can or anything like that, but nutrition labels are really, really helpful for kind of knowing what's in your food. So I actually this is just some granola that I had in my cupboard. So I'm just gonna hold this up so you can kind of see the nutrition label a little bit. And it's got, everything listed here. This is the new version of a nutrition label. They changed it a couple years ago to make it a little bit easier to read. So I'm just gonna go through this super quick and kind of talk about what we're looking at here. So the first thing you see is the calories up here. They make it nice and big so you can see that right away. That's one of the changes that they made in that new style. And calories are something that, everybody says is, we always hear about reducing calories and making sure that we're not getting too many calories in a day. But a calorie is just a measure of energy, which is something that a lot of people don't realize. So we need calories for everything in our life. Not just for exercising and running and jumping, but even things like keeping our heart beating and blinking and breathing. We need calories for all of that. So it's really not something that you should be afraid of. You do want to try and not do it to excess. Like, don't try and get 6,000 calories in a day. 2,000 is generally about what you want to aim for. And that can vary, obviously, depending on your lifestyle and even the size you are. You know, bigger people are going to need more calories, just as it is. So that's the calories up there. Protein, fat, and carbs are the three things that contribute calories to our food. Those are called the macronutrients. So those are all listed here as well. It's hard for me to see, but we got fat, carbs, and protein here. And what's nice about these labels is that it's got the percent daily value on here too. So again, that's actually different for everybody, but this is just a guideline. So the RDA is the recommended dietary allowance, is what it's called. And that is just something that's put out to give people kind of an idea of what to aim for that kind of thing. And so this daily value here, that's a percentage of the RDA. So it kind of just gives you a little bit of insight into how you're doing in that. And let's see, the sodium here is in between cholesterol and carbohydrates in this label. And that one, if anything on the label is under 5%, that's considered low. So this one is actually 0%. So this is considered a low sodium food. And if anything is over 20%, that's considered high. So with this one, my fiber in here is 21%. So this would be a high fiber food. So, you know, just something to kind of keep an eye on, practice looking at the nutrition labels so you kind of have a better idea about where you're standing with your nutrition.
Yeah, definitely. Label reading really, really helps when you're trying to maintain a healthy lifestyle, a healthy diet. Label reading comes in handy for sure. So at this point, all that I've done is I went ahead and I think I added the salt and pepper. We've stirred in our peas. We let that cook for a couple of minutes. And then I took my mixture and I put it in my pan, which I oiled down. And now I'm going to set that to the side because we're going to actually work on our sweet potato topping. So finally, we're at the sweet potato section. So let me make a quick transition. I know I did mention this, but yes, this recipe is going to be a little bit more intensive than we normally do. That is okay. I'm going to adjust my camera, make sure you guys can see that. Fabulous. All right.
So it's like a weekend recipe.
Yeah, definitely weekend recipe.
A little bit more time on it.
And the great thing about this is that you can definitely prep it in advance. It stores really nicely, refrigerate it, and then you'll have something to eat on throughout your week. So make sure you guys can see everything. That looks good. These are the sweet potatoes that I went ahead and baked earlier. I'm going to go ahead and we're going to peel them. And I'm just going to set my toppings, my peelings to the side. They're nice and soft now, so I can literally just like tear it off with my hands. See that? And so, you know, do that. And we're going to make sure to get all that skin off. And we're going to put it in our bowl. And we will be mashing this with a fork. So this might be a good time to invite any children in who might be interested in cooking or being in the kitchen. Exposing them to a little bit of what that looks like. So I have a little bit of a toasted end down there where it was roasting, but that is totally fine. And then just continue to do that.
So are you going to save those peels for your broth bag?
You know, I don't think I will. I've never put potato peels in a broth bag, much less sweet potato peels. Jordan, have you done that before? Do you think that would work out? I'm down to try it.
Some sweet potato peels?
Yeah, would that work in a broth bag?
I don't see why not.
Okay, well, hey, there you go. There you go. Yeah, that's just like a really great money saving thing that we do. Is making those broth bags. Right now, all I can think about is soup, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Soup and potato pies and things like that, casseroles. So it's nice to have a broth that, you know, you've made yourself.
Yeah, it's definitely starting to be fall here.
All right. So for the viewers who are watching us, any thoughts on any other vegetables or things that you would add to this recipe? What you think might go good in a shepherd's pie? Or any experiences eating shepherd's pie, in the past? Want to share those with us? We're very curious. Oh, that's a lot of meat of the potato. I'm gonna put that back in there.
I would probably try adding some cauliflower. That's another thing that I think kind of hides really well in things, especially, you can buy the riced cauliflower that's frozen and ready to go. I feel like that would be good to throw in there.
Yeah, I agree. I am coming into like a new cauliflower thing lately. I'm glad you brought that up because I've been really enjoying like cauliflower tots, things like that. It's just like awesome. Such a versatile vegetable. That and zucchini. You can put zucchini in your smoothies, believe it or not.
Yeah.
And makes them really nice and smooth, almost the same way a banana would. So if you're not a fan of banana, that could be a great alternative. And you can't even taste it.
That might also be good because I know a lot of people have zucchinis from their garden right now that are just taking over.
So I'm going to work on mashing up my sweet potato right now. And with this mash, we are going to be adding a 1/4 cup of low-fat milk. So I'm going to add that in here after I get through a little bit of the mash. And then also we're going to be adding just a touch of salt and pepper. I believe it's a 1/4 teaspoon of the salt and pepper. So we are going to be adding that.
So we do have a comment from a viewer asking if anybody's ever tried a traditional dish from Turkey. I might butcher this, so I'm sorry. It's yark, Y-A-R-A-K.
Oh, no, I'm here.
They suggest we try this in a future video. So if you have
challenge.
Absolutely. If you have any recipes that we should try, or a suggestion, especially for this traditional dish, and you have a recipe that we could try, we would be happy to consider that dish. So give us a recipe. We'd love to try new dishes.
Yeah, I'm down for the challenge. That sounds like it would be a fun thing to do. Okay, so I added my 1/4 cup of milk, just letting you guys know where I'm at, so you can keep up. I'm getting ready to add that 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Let me grab my 1/4 teaspoon actually. Oh, is it? Oh, it's still here. Oh, wow. Silly me. Okay. So I got that 1/4 teaspoon of salt and then my pepper. At this point, you could add a 1/8 teaspoon of ground cinnamon. That is optional. But if you were interested in adding that to this recipe, you could do that here at this point. Keep that in mind. And then we are going to mash that again just to mix it all together. And we are also going to need to add 1.5 teaspoon of, oh no, that was never mind. That was already done. So we did that. All right, great. So I'm mashing that and mixing my salt and pepper in there. And that's going to be the topping for our shepherd's pie here, you guys. Very simple, very quick. Now let me put that on top of my pie. I'm going to show you guys what that's looking like here. Okay. And so after you put this on top of your pie, you are going to want to bake your pie at 450 again for about 30 minutes, just until it's nice and brown and bubbly on the top there. And I will show you guys what that looks like in just a moment. But that is basically our shepherd's pie after I spread this on here. Okay. And now as you're spreading, you might notice that some of the filling might get a little bit mixed up with the topping, and that's totally fine. We're eating it all together anyway. So it works out fine. Just spread to the best of your ability, like so.
Sajwa, do you know how many servings this is? It looks like a lot of food.
Oh, definitely. This serves six. 6 people would be getting a 1.5 cup serving with this guy. I'm just gonna advantage. So that I don't take up any more of you guys' time, because I know we've gone over, I am going to do my TV swap out and show you guys what that looks like once it's been baked. So there you go. That's a nice view of our sweet potato shepherd's pie. And that's the recipe for today. As I mentioned, you can make this dish over the weekend and reheat it on a busy weeknight. I recommend you would cover this with some aluminum foil and refrigerate it. You can keep it for up to 3 days. And then you would just reheat it covered with the aluminum foil in your oven at 350 until it's warm throughout. This also would go good with like a salad on the side to get more vegetables in there, more of the rainbow. And then also, as we talked about already, you could add any kind of vegetables in there in the shepherd's pie. You could do peas, you could do spinach, green beans, edamame, lima beans. I mean, the choice is yours. So.
All right, everyone. Well, thank you so much, Sajwa and Julia. Great video today, and that's such a beautiful recipe. We do have a viewer that says they're going to try to make this one soon. So this is a great fall recipe. So with that, that is our sweet potato shepherd's pie. Thank you again to Julia and Chef Sajwa for that. So thank you all for watching. Please don't forget to take our survey. Again, we have that posted in live chat, but it is also in our description. If you do try this recipe or any of our other recipes from our videos, let us know how it goes. Let us know if you liked it, what you changed, or if you have any recipes you'd like us to make. We did get a suggestion today, so we will definitely look into that and see what we can do for next time. So please join us again next week so we can make another healthy, delicious, and affordable meal together. Thanks, everyone. Have a great week.
Thank you.